Greetings and welcome to my dear Virgos out there. This is Ron from Tarot of the Twin Sun. Tarot of the Twin Sun is a functional division within the Order of the Twin Sun. Please take only what you will. We shall proceed with essentially a number of readings that is tapping into Virgo's energy for the month of December 2022. Okay, the sixth house is open. Now, the sixth house is known as the house of tribulation. It's the culmination of, the penultimate house, rather, the house before the seventh. And essentially, the sixth house culminates with six houses of the self. Okay. And the interesting thing about the sixth house is that it is a house of obstacles. It's a house of tribulations where the self wants to disintegrate and then join the collective, join the forces of Libra and beyond. At the same time, it's a house of mutability. It's still an earthy house, but it's flexible enough through the auspices of Mercury to do what it needs to be done. And usually this causes a great deal of self-reflection, self-doubt, at the same time self-criticism that plagues or banes essentially the existence of Virgons out there. Also, the 6th and the 12th axis, it's the house of it's the axis of complete disintegration, of fusion with the universal sort of aspects of existence as we know it. It also culminates, sixth house culminates essentially. Essentially this idea where we have to reach into the ether to understand the unknown, to reach out with our hand and to grab on something that is intangible. Okay, and that's the whole sort of nexus of essentially the sixth house. So we will be doing a number of readings for the month of December 2022 for Virgo. Firstly, I'd like to begin with a sense of karma for the month of December. See what that leads up to in terms of a situation or an incident, something that may occur in the month of December, and look into that organically, and then we shall move into the Great Mirror. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, in terms of karma, I think you have a grasp of it all when it comes to this month in December. You're leading up to a point of reflection of the past, especially when it comes to the deeper past of anything that relates to the nature of love, the nature of fulfillment, the quest for the Holy Grail, anything of the above. There also is something here that has to do with you becoming privy to what you can hold on to, what you can be a master of, when it comes to essentially bringing forward the idea or the claim or the sense that things are, they can be controlled or manipulated according to your will. And this is all very auspicious. Underscoring it is the Two of Swords, the Two of Spades. Excuse me. And with this card in particular, this requires you to abdicate something, you to lessen the mind in order to see, and in order to progress and to mature in such a way that it would lead to, it would be the Four Swords. It would lead to a sense of peace. I think this has to do with coming to head, trying to understand why things have been stagnant, understanding in this stagnation or in this stillness, in this static of your existence, there is an ability to understand the mountain that you have once climbed, the one that you have planted your flag upon, while scaling the mountain of challenges, of the mountain of existence, of anything that has to do with, scaling something, becoming a master of it, and then living accordingly to it, according to your own design, your own principles. Okay. There are choices in the past, a myriad of choices. I think ultimately the Virgons that I'm dealing with has found a sense of righteousness when it comes to the nature of love, the nature of fulfillment. Okay, you have come up with a principle in which you don't have to choose, you don't have to sort of waste your time on anything when it comes to a choice. When it comes to a choice of where you place your love, your efforts, and it's all sort of coming up with a sense of culmination. Now there's a sense of empowerment in it all. Ultimately, you're searching for peace, and you're going to find peace with the past if you realize that what you've been doing, in terms of not choosing to make bad decisions or poor choices in love or in affairs of that nature, there's an ability to essentially understand that we are all in this together. Okay, that we come from the same source, that we all have this sort of responsibility as familiar members of society, of as a collective, as a human race, that you are becoming empowered now, and there's a sense of peace. I like this reading. There's also something here about finding harsh realities, truths, or one particular truth, a way of principle that will help you in understanding a period of not being able to make a choice, of also not choosing for the right reasons or for the wrong reasons, whichever right or wrong. It doesn't really matter. Ultimately, what I do sense in December is that the impending sort of season of Capricorn will give you a sense of righteousness of what you're doing, and a right way to portray yourself to others as well. Now, let's look into this Two of Swords. Four. Yeah, I think mostly there's going to be a sense that intuitively things are falling into place as they will. Could be that you've already traversed or jumped through into a new reality. With the autumnal season and Scorpio season, there are some in-depth and radical changes that have occurred with the eclipse seasons that activated the nodes in Taurus and Scorpio, as well as Uranus in Taurus. So all of that has essentially brought forward newness, and with this 9 mirror image that is occurring in the past, and this moving forward of the Wheel of Fortune, there is a sense that you will find peace in change, peace in flexibility, in the flexibility of the mind, as well as the flexibility of your reality, how things are changing, how the world is changing, and you are becoming privy, and there's a sense of peace in it all. I like this reading. Now, if you are dealing with a need or necessity to find real or authentic connections, there's a possibility here that this need will intensify, and you're going to find that a lot of people won't resonate with what's coming, what has come with eclipse season. Okay, this has to do with shared resources, deep connections, deep intense connections, and trying to put a name on it, trying to fixate on a commitment or a promise, something to materialize, but then it irrevocably, these conditions transforming, and through the auspices of Uranus as well as the north and the south nodes, it's accentuated what I would call an eclipse of the mind or eclipse of the soul. So what becomes silhouetted out of this image is essentially clarity. Okay, the rays of the sun creating clarity, bringing forward to mind this sort of position that you are put in, where you are no longer going to be seeking out the old or the past. Okay, so if you feel a need, but then you can't put a finger on that need, look towards that which has left you, but you can't understand what has left you. Okay, look to the mystery of what we want to fixate on in terms of intensities, in terms of promises, in terms of passions, and how these passions sort of fade with the newness around you, the new design around you, the sort of the interesting sort of things that have come across in terms of your insights or your explorations of this eclipse season. December, astrologically speaking, will be moving forward to the 9th and the 10th houses. Okay, so there will be an accentuation of exploration, of books, of really going into depth with knowledge systems, and also coming into the understanding of collective karmas in the 10th house, what comes out in the external realm in terms of the beginning of essentially the winter season. Yeah, so that is what I'm seeing. I do see here a gateway, an ability to find self-empowerment, also find a sense of peace in that in which you do, especially when approaching past situations, trying to logically and perhaps even intuitively sort of discern that which has not served you in the past. Okay, how things have come close to becoming close to reality in terms of fulfillment, but then it falling short because you haven't invested in certain situations that may have seemed too toxic to entertain. This is something that that is culminating to the Two of Swords energy, and Two of Swords essentially is influenced by eclipses. It provides a sense to see one path or another when it comes to the mind and the manifestations of willpower, and then to see the dualism there and not to traverse either one path or the other, one way of thought or the other. Okay, so there's this sort of stillness that I really rather enjoy about this. There also is an escapist element that I'm seeing in the near future. The irony is that as you escape, you will discern past situations intuitively and subconsciously. You won't even have to think about them. You will just know. And I like this. I like this reading. So let's move on. Hopefully you're doing well. My channel has slowly reached a sort of stagnation point around 1,280 subscribers, up and down, and there's no expansion within the channel, and that's how I like it. I think I've manifested this. At the same time, it's been rather slow in private readings. So it's a very interesting progression, if you want to call it that, in terms of my career as an astrologer and as a reader of tarot. So we'll go ahead and get into the Great Mirror. The Great Mirror is a tool devised by the Order of the Twin Sun in order to see particular karmas that may exist for the energy of Virgo and a significant other. The significant other can be a past connection, it could be a future one, it could be one with yourself, it could be one with anything or any agent, even a collective, a group, or a position, let's say. So we'll go ahead and do that now. Okay. I think there's an element of shame in this connection. It doesn't have to be, but there's something about it where there is a drive to get out of isolation, to become welcomed somewhere, okay? And the thing about this drive is that it will provide a sense of proper order, proper arrangement, proper compartmentalization of where people belong, okay? This has to do with belonging. At the same time, there is a sense of embarrassment or something surprising about this belonging. I think you bring the cup to the table in this connection. It is a deep one. There's a lot of emotional qualities, with the moon card being here, Gemini as well being slightly accented. There also is the main card. This would be the Magician in traditional tarot, but this is the Tyler card, Alieta card. And this allows for you to see through any sort of emotional confusion when dealing with this person, place, or thing, the significant other, and at the same time to bring your cup to the table, to bring a sense of the ace, to bring love in some sort of way to this person or the significant other. You're dealing with someone here who is limited. There's a restrictive quality about them that has a lot of expectation, and this comes through the auspices of Saturn, okay? Limitation, restriction, constriction, time, the lapse of time, wisdom that comes through the passage of time. But because the third house is activated on your end, Mercury as well as the moon, there's something about this that has to do with the coming to a sense of clarity when it comes to emotional rawness, drives, or primeval or primitivistic sort of needs, okay, emotional needs. The thing is that these won't be satiated with someone who has a lot of boundaries and restrictions placed upon them, okay, namely your significant other. There is a sense that whatever or whomever you're dealing with, they are becoming more apparent of their own limitations when it comes to their expressive capabilities as a human, as a person, okay? There's something about them also that reminds you that that your own needs or your own sort of these needs that are there, they're not being met, and it can recall something that is linked to a relationship with a parent, okay, particularly a father figure. So this sort of lack mentality is somewhat indicative of the irony that wherein you have the capacity, Virgo has the capacity to give and to nurture this situation, to nurture yourself as well. There's a sense that something has to be done in terms of balancing out the situation. We have here in the soul position the Union card, which is indicative of Gemini. It's also indicative of Taurus. So the second and third houses has to do with promises. At the same time, it has to do with not being able to reach out, but then there still being a very strong connection. You are nurturing something here that requires a lot of you in terms of time, energy, resources, and especially your own creative juices. So don't be drained by this. I think what's coming to play here, okay, interesting, is a sense that you have more control in this situation than you would like to be in. Like, it's easy for you to give this to this connection, but I think you would rather be in control of your own reality. the own elementary sort of forces and drives, the creative capacities of this connection for it to work. But at the same time, you are at the table, okay? It doesn't mean that they're at the table. That's the thing. It would require the sort of Arthurian ability, to reach at a round table, let's say, to reach others equally and to converse equally at a place that is equal, at a plateau, and to sit there to share in some way, shape, or form. The thing is that you have the capacity to do this, but even then, you're questioning why you would do so. The thing is to note that with any sort of situation when, let's say, a man and a woman got together, and a woman or a man got together, meeting at this type of place, there's a sense of giving and receiving. And I think it's important to note that what may be culminating here is a series of conditions that, when approaching the table, there's a lot of restrictions to. It's like table etiquette, or even just showing up. Like it's not going to be sort of promised. What is culminating from all of this energy is an interesting stormy capacity, wherein within the storm, or within the eye of the storm, some sort of collapse would occur in terms of the expectations of the towers. Okay, now this is very interesting, considering that we have the light of the moon sort of descending down and creating this destructive quality, okay, onto one tower, okay. The other tower sort of remaining. At the same time, this tower is extremely wide. There are pillars on it, and this tower moment is essentially what is occurring. So this has to do with the two pillars that eclipse the gateway for something to happen, for something to occur. And the gateway is here with terra firma, with the world card in the reverse. So what is coming to be is a sense of flexibility as opposed to fixity, okay? So things have to bend in order for them to work, and this tower element is coming in to destroy and to incapacitate one element of the two towers, okay? So essentially the gateway is going to collapse. There's something here about also the sun in reverse, and the Ace of Cups, that show to me, at least, that there will be a period of darkness or a period of emotional longing on Virgo's side when it comes to this situation. At the same time, this harkens back to a lot of psychological things that occur when it comes to a child watching two parents sort of duke it out, trying to understand why this type of fight would occur, what kind of psychological scars would be set into play when it comes to the child's maturation development, and then understanding how with the tower moment that is occurring here, how the foundations of the world card and how a vision of expectation or a vision of grace cannot be attained, the gateway closes, okay? And then the Ace of Cups is sort of taken back. This is a very difficult situation. Whomever you're dealing with, they're questioning essentially the sense and the nature of love, how there is a deep sort of need to go into the repressed form and to understand their own limitations, their own sort of their own sadnesses, their own melancholy. And to understand this, we would have to go even deeper. But ultimately, what I do see here is a way to improve to improve the self-reflection, to understand why in elements of downtime or in elements of finding or not finding the right path, the right way of doing things between two people, especially if there's a sort of expectation on a societal level to come into union, to come into some form of grace, and then to represent that in some sort of social understanding through marriage or through some sort of commitment, blah, blah, blah. It's to understand, all of this is a lesson to understand and to improve upon, to sort of to augment someone's understanding in all of this, and to become a student of what is essentially necessary to bring forward a ray of light into one's life. Okay, that's essentially what it is. And for the advice, to for you to actually go through with this connection, it would be to essentially, what I'm seeing December as, is to essentially exhaust the notion of karma, exhaust all karmas, so that there would be a sense of stillness in it all. Okay, lots of eclipse energy in this reading, some gross realizations, a disconnect, or perhaps you're dealing with someone extremely repressed. There's a need to understand why the table is there, why it's been placed there, how you can work your magic, or perhaps even hold back your magic in order for things to work out and pan out. The thing is that the advice is showing the fool's journey. Okay, so it would have to have a great deal of faith, blind faith, if you will, in order for this type of connection to work itself out. Because this person is searching for a type of order, but then it's very disorderly what's going on in terms of the panning out of certain things. Also, there was a block or repression, a sort of conditionality in the way they love or the way they express themselves in a type of connection that you share with them. So ultimately, I do see here a sense that there is a choice to be made as well, a choice that cannot be made because there's an inevitable fusion, okay, of energies. Okay, so it's something of a very toxic conditional relationship here that that really culminates into this this world in reverse and the tower in reverse, or the tower in the upright, the world in reverse. A need to become flexible in order so that you can bend, so that the lightning doesn't hit you, sort of thing. But at the same time, when the lightning does hit, then a gross realization comes to understanding, and the gateway collapses, as I've mentioned. So that's the best I can do. Not the best reading, but hopefully you do find some nuggets of wisdom there. I do thank you, my dear Virgos, for your continued support of the channel, however that channel may be. And as far as the remainder of December and moving into January, the energy that I'm seeing is a movement towards more liberative qualities, liberated qualities of existence for the collective in general. With all this intense Scorpio energy, any sort of transformations that are occurring are going to have to occur very deeply within, without the external influences of anyone outside. Then after that change occurs into the month of December and January, there will be more of a collectivized sort of congregation in which things can occur. Now, because the Five of Pentacles in the reverse does show up, this speaks about actions that occur, especially because, if I'm not mistaken, Mars being in Gemini, and potentially in retrograde. I could be wrong about that. Essentially, that energy really doesn't bode well for making things occur, to make things happen. Okay, especially if there's a feeling of isolation, or if you and this other person, the significant other, feels like you have to do something in order to get off a certain path. No, I think it's important to be on the same path, even though you both might feel isolated or sort of separate from each other. That path that you both share is still something that it harkens to shared melancholy or a shared understanding of the gross realization of the sort of limitations of Saturn. Okay, the limitations of human existence, and not feeling that the irony is that you both feel sort of separate, or you feel this loneliness, but then in that we are all together, this shared sort of understanding that we are separate entities, that we cannot totally fuse with another. That's the best I can do for now. I hope you're staying warm, and I do wish you well in the Northern Hemisphere. Thank you. Bye-bye.